You guys might remember him from 30 Rock from the Sun and a few other films.
It's Third Rock from the Sun. You said 30 Rock.
Did I really say that?
You combined two, yes. Yeah.
Oh my god, did I say 30? No, I didn't,
I
really.
swear to God, you said 30 Rock from the Sun. Which is a 30 Rock is a different. I can see how you can make that mistake. It's okay.
I meant Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah.
Did I say 30?
You said 30 Rock from the Sun.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm going to start that again because I fucked that up. I'm sorry. Hey guys! It's Amanda here, your CUTIE CARNAGE here on another episode of ChannelSundown.
Hey! And it's me, JESS KORESH, riding shotgun as always.
Today is actually going to be an interesting episode because we are actually doing a review of the new Pet Sematary. So, we are going to talk about this new remake, reboot, rehashing of a classic from 1989 based on the Stephen King novel. 2019's Pet Sematary was directed by Kevin Klaus and Dennis Widmeyer. They might sound familiar because they directed such films as Starry Eyes, and they directed a little short in the film Holidays.
Valentine's Day.
Yes, Valentine's Day, the little short that they made. Holidays is a film where they, spoiler alert, talk about holidays. They do little horror shorts, and they did the Valentine's Day segment of Holidays. And the cast include very talented and very funny. He's not as funny in this film, but John Lithgow. You guys might remember him from the show Third Rock from the Sun, as well as some other films, Harry and the Hendersons, Dexter, which he's not really funny in Dexter either, but he was in a bunch of films. And one of my favorite films when I was a kid, Santa Claus. So yeah, he's in a bunch of films, and he's in this one. And also Jason Clarke, a little woman who I was watching the film and I thought she looked very familiar. An actress named Amy Semmett. She looks really familiar because I couldn't put my finger on it until I actually Googled, but she was also in You're Next. She stars and she plays the mother, and Jason Clarke plays the father. John Lithgow plays the neighbor.
Many of you may be familiar with the film subject already because, like Amanda mentioned, there was a previous 1989 film, and it's based on the 1983 book of the same name, which has had people spelling cemetery wrong since 1983. It's so hard for me to spell things wrong on purpose.
Right?
Story of the Creed family who moved to a little remote farmhouse, and they discover that there is a pet cemetery on their property. Turns out there's an ancient Indian burial ground. Ooh. You can imagine some things happen, and we're going to get into a little bit of it.
It's very, if you've seen the original, like you said, there are some changes, but it basically sticks to the same point of the original film.
And I won't give away the changes because I think that's a lot of people are concerned those spoiler alerts. But I personally liked the changes. I felt like the changes were maybe like a kind of an homage to the original material and changing things up a little bit without, you know, completely destroying the original story. But that's just my opinion. Here are my pros and cons. The story was very well told. I thought it was nice to look at. I think they did a good job of telling an original story with material that's kind of been done a few times. Because I'm not a big fan of remakes. I'm kind of over the whole remake train. But it turned out to be a little different than your average remake. And like I said, to me, the story was more of an homage to the original story and not so much just a rehashing of the story, if you will.
I agree with that, yet again, I don't agree with that because I like the story. Don't get me wrong. Same point, I felt it was very overly a point of homages. People who've seen the original, I won't spoil the couple scenes, but there's a few scenes I was like, oh, it's wink wink to the original film. It was very annoying. Like lead into a scene that happened in the original, like, oh, do you think it's gonna happen like the original? Oh, no, it's not. Like, oh yeah it is, no it's not. Like, I'm like, stop fucking with me, please. Like, just show the scene. I understand, like, I understand that I'm a little bit older than I think I am. Like, there's a lot of remakes out there, and I'm like, well, that's why they remake it. It doesn't need to be remade. They're like, Amanda, that movie came out like 15 years ago. Like, not many people have seen it. And I'm like, oh. I feel like Pet Sematary is still very big point in horror. I felt there was too many of those winks and nudges. I kept feeling nudged. It was like nudged, like, hey, do you want popcorn? I'm like, oh, is that you or the movie? Because I'm really tired of this. But I respected the fact that they did try to, like, change a few things in the story. That being said, I felt that the story, and I'm not talking about the film per se, but the story of the film, I respected how it took the original story, and I know a few people who are upset about the original It, or for the remake It, because they're like, it changed this about the original, and changed this and changed that, and I didn't like it. And I'm like, well, you realize before it was a miniseries, it was a book. You have to take some sort of liberties in changing something up, because if you would, I mean, we're not doing a Psycho remake and making it exactly the same. Spoiler alert, if you guys have seen the Psycho remake, don't. Because if you've seen the original, then you've seen all of it.
In a better version.
Yeah, and you've seen the better version. Brought together, yet falling apart on sides. I guess the best way, the story itself. So that's how I kind of feel. It's a very mixed opinion, because I do respect the fact that they did try to change the story a little bit, but I felt they didn't do it quite well enough. I didn't think that they took anything, and I'm not going to spoil anything, of course, and it just came out, so I'm definitely not going to spoil it. But it's very, very annoying how they tried too hard to be different, that they didn't change anything at all. They just, we're like, hey, remember? Well, we're not going to do that, but remember when they did that? Like, oh.
Stop nudging me. It's funny. I think this might be the first review that we've done that the things that you hated about the movie are the things that I loved about the movie.
I know.
I loved it. See, I don't think my opinion is that they didn't overdo it. I thought it was fun because it was kind of like a reward for people that had seen the original movie. Like, hey, look at this. And then I like things that you think are going to go one way, and then they don't go another way, and they're kind of tricking you a little bit. Like, that's actually one of the things I enjoyed most about the movie.
I'd say I can understand that in the aspect of if they did, like, go somewhere different. And I guess if it wasn't so much of if it was a quiet nudge, kind of like the new Suspiria, like, they kind of did homages without, pushing the homage. Because I felt like, and I'm not going to, for people who have seen it, I'm not going to come out into detail, like the staircase scene and the scene of, the burial. Like, it was kind of like, oh, remember the original, and I'm kind of like, okay, I got the first R, okay, so we're good. Got it the first time. So I guess, like, I appreciated it, but I felt it was too much of a fan thing. I felt the film was going for more of the homage and fan treatment, basically kind of like how everybody appreciated it. I felt like they were getting on that bandwagon.
For you guys watching this video, start it over and take a drink every time we say homage.
Homage!
Didn't learn how to pronounce it correctly until like 10 years ago. Homage! We're from the South.
So, our next topic is going to be the acting. I have a few opinions about the acting. I thought the acting was very well done. Jason Clarke, John Lithgow, Amy Smites, I hope I'm saying her name right. The mother, the father, they both were great. You guys know Jason Clarke, Zero Dark 30. Catherine Bigelow, you guys know Near Dark. That's my girl. Anyways, I liked the acting. I thought it was good acting. Although, I will say that I was somewhat, and I feel awful saying this, I was somewhat disappointed with the little girl.
I thought she did a great job.
I was somewhat disappointed because, like, the original, not comparing it really, but I didn't feel that the character carried a lot of sorrow within the father, mother, so much. The mother, yes, I felt it, but with the father, I didn't feel it as much. And I felt like the sorrow wasn't as captured within the characters. The appeal of bringing somebody back. A few scenes within, I felt the character I felt the sorrow, but it was very few and far between. They captured more of the surrounding environment versus the actual feeling of the character. So the acting was good in the parts of despair and them going through what they're going through, but at the same time it didn't capture feeling that aren't really the safest, I guess, best way to put it. This is really hard to explain without spoiling anything. The character of the acting, like John Lithgow, was fantastic, but I felt like his character wasn't captured. Basically, I felt like people that seen the original film and seen, that read the story, understood the characters, but people that have never seen the story understood it, watched it, and couldn't capture the characters. The acting itself versus just the story, but I felt the acting was good for what they had. I didn't feel as much, as I thought it would. So.
Are you saying you didn't connect to the characters in a way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was going to say that I like the acting, that I even like the child actors, and everyone knows I hate child actors. They did a great job, but now that I'm listening to you and your opinion, I'm kind of thinking back and I'm like, you know what? They didn't really. Wasn't that much emotion in the story. Though, like, there could have been, especially with like John Lithgow's character, and there could have been a lot more emotion in the story. But like, it wasn't bad. But I mean, they just kind of did what they had to do to tell the story.
But like, you watch a show or something, a character dies, you feel, because you know that character, and you feel, the heart. You feel that character, and you know that anguish and that heart and everything. But then versus, and they're crying because they're sad, and you're kind of like, oh, they're sad. I feel sorry for them because they're sad. At the same standpoint is, start doing things, you're like, oh, well, that's not right. They shouldn't do that. Kind of correcting the character without feeling, because when you get to a point and you feel for a character, when they do something wrong, you kind of identify with the situation. Because I watched the original, so I kind of know what's going on. And this, so I kind of feel for the characters based on the original. Versus if I just never seen the original, I saw this film, I wouldn't have felt for the characters, and I wouldn't have understood what was going on, and I wouldn't feel like, why is he doing that? I would be like, what? Why? This makes no sense.
See, I think that's part of the problem with these remakes, is that it's so hard to not relate it to the original story and be, you know what I mean? You're gonna be comparing it to the original story. I mean, even if you can't help it, it just comes naturally.
His name was the neighbor, John Lithgow's character. They didn't really dive so much into that story, and I feel like this was the time, and I was kind of disappointed about that, because I thought they would dive more into that. Especially
since he's such a great actor. Exactly. I mean, he's hands down the greatest actor in this film. And he could have really dealt, the emotion of like his wife's death, and being attached to these characters and how he would deal with it. Because death is a very powerful emotion. I mean, it's a very powerful feeling that we have. Emotion that's associated with death is what I'm trying to say. And I don't feel like they really. So as far as gore goes in this movie, there wasn't a lot. I mean, there was with the animals and stuff like that, the kind of the gore that you would expect. I feel like it was just the perfect amount for this movie. It wasn't anything over the top. They weren't trying to like shock you or like anything like that. Although there was one character who's kind of predominant through the movie, and he's a pretty gory character that pops up a lot. So he was kind of a reoccurring theme of gore, I suppose. But as far as it goes, there's not a whole lot. I mean, I wouldn't take your kids to see it. But it's
or your newborn.
Yeah, there was a newborn there. They did it well. I think it was handled well. I think it was tasteful. I think it fit along with the story, and like I said, the gore with the animals and the pets and other things. I think nothing was over the top. I think it was just the right amount of gore for the movie.
That is really funny that you brought that up, because I'm glad you did, because that was another point that I thought of with the acting, and I forgot to mention. There is a character within the original, I'm not spoiling anything about that, there's a character in the original who, I'm not going to spoil anything and not say anything, but they're in this film, and they are so far from not predominant at all. They're there, and like I said, if you would have either read the book or seen the original, you would understand that character actually had a point in this story, and it was not at all a point in this story, and it was very pointless for him to even be around. And I was just like watching, and I'm just like, wait, but he's not doing anything. He's just there. He's there for people to go, ah. Yeah. And after the second time they showed him, people were done saying ah. At that point, he still wasn't. And so, but yeah, the gore There wasn't much gore compared to, I love horror films, and I've seen everything, and I appreciate, gore and blood, and I'm basically desensitized to it all.
Yeah.
I know it. Not much gets me anymore.
TV shows are gorier than horror movies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This movie isn't gory. It's tasteful. I mean, it's tasteful. There's a scene that I thought would be at least have, the shock value and didn't. And there are scenes that, I don't want to spoil anything, but the animal deaths were gorier than anything in the film. And it was kind of like, you would think there would have been, something more predominant for them to base seeing something and being like, oh my god, that's awful, and filling a scene like, some movies do, but this film didn't. It didn't have any of that. Like I said, the roadkill was bloodier than death scenes. So.
I know what you're talking about, in particular, the death scene, and I was thinking like, oh, Amanda will appreciate that this scene wasn't gory.
And I did appreciate that, but at the same point, I kind of went, but this was too not, there was nothing at all, based on reality of the incident that happened.
That's true.
There was nothing realistic about it. You would think if the thing happened the way it happened, there would have been a scene, and I didn't expect them to be like, oh, here it is, look at it. I thought there'd be at least,
blood,
yeah.
I by no means wanted it to be a gory scene, but I was surprised by the lack of really
anything.
Yeah, devastation on any kind of level.
Exactly, because they could have just had a trail or something of carnage, and instead it was just yeah, exactly. And so I was very and because I did close my eyes a lot, because I'm not gonna lie, the original I can't watch without crying. I was very oh my god, I can't. During that whole scene, I kept feeling somebody go.
Yeah, I was waiting.
He was like, is she gonna be okay? Because I was because I kept doing this. I was like,
I was waiting for the Amanda meltdown.
Yeah, I was like, and he was just like, and he kept doing that, and then all of a sudden he just see me go, huh? The next point I want to talk about is going to be the sound and the visual. I have a lot to say about this subject, because first of all, of course guys, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm going to say, short little story. We went to the movie at 11:30 because after, my accident, after my head treatments and stuff, it's hard for me to focus on a film because I get distracted by sounds. Okay, that's why it's hard for me to go to movie theaters and whatnot, because when people talk, I'm like, my mind kind of, focuses on that. It's a twitch I have. I'm working on it. Don't judge me.
I'm working on it.
I'm working on it, exactly. I had to go really early because I was like, it's Wednesday, there's not going to be much kids. And that being said, we were sitting in front of these two older, it's an older couple, spoke through the whole entire film. Just talk. And I'm not talking about a scene happened, they're like, oh no. No, they were having a conversation about what they were watching. So bad that Jesse was and Jesse doesn't say anything, but he was like, shh. And I was like, oh damn, you had him shush you. That's bad when he says shush. But anyways, there was a few times in the film where I heard things and I thought it was the people behind me. And it wasn't until I actually watched the scene I was like, oh, this is in the film.
I told you the whole time, I was like, ooh, that's kind of, I thought that was really eerie how they had a baby crying in the background.
I know.
And then I realized that someone actually had a baby in the theater. But for the first 30 minutes, I was like, ooh, that's kind of creepy that they have a baby crying in the background.
Yeah.
But no, it was just an actual baby in the theater.
Yeah, literally we're sitting there watching it, and I thought the same thing, because it wasn't until, there was parts where I was like, oh, there's people whispering in the background. And so we actually heard the people behind us, because they showed a scene, and the person behind us went, oh, well, shit, damn. And mind you, these are two older couple. They're not, teenagers or anything. They were, older couple. And one guy was on the phone. The other one brought a newborn baby, and the baby was crying, and they're rocking the baby while watching Pet Sematary.
And keep in mind, there were only 5 people besides us in the theater.
Yeah.
We should just have a segment where we just bitch about the people in the theater, because that happens every review.
Yes.
It's because we live in the town that dreaded sundown. I feel like
Exactly.
they have no respect for cinema. No.
Sorry to sidetrack, but anyways, it was very eerie because you heard things background. I'm not going to spoil anything else by the sound. The visuals were interesting in the point of, how do I put this without spoiling? There was things that I felt that they focused on too much, which made things less relative to what you were experiencing. How do I explain that? So the cemetery itself, they basically focused on the aspect of the stairs and walking up, how far the stairs were to get up, and just focusing on basically the drawing out of how many things were, creatures were buried, and then them in the middle of the night burying and stuff. And it just felt kind of like, I was like, they're taking this too much of kind of like establishing the eeriness versus the surroundings, because what's scary about the film is the idea of people desire and wanting and making the wrong decisions and getting control of too much. That's what I feel the story is. Having a control of just death and life and just grieving and just dealing with oneself and, giving up things, sacrificing things to be happy versus, dealing with the situation itself. So that being said, felt that they didn't grab that as well. Basically, they're just like, this cemetery is creepy. And it's kind of like, okay, well, I get that at the same point. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful, the settings, the surroundings, and everything. I just felt that they were basically going for the surroundings versus what the pet cemetery was, versus what it is. Basically, like, oh, it's eerie and it's scary and there's dead things and they come back to life when they're buried. Scarier is the people controlling. Well, it's in the trailer. But yeah, spoiler, sorry guys. But yeah, spoiler alert. That's what's scary, is people having control of that. Versus the physical aspect of, oh yeah, you do things and they come back. That's scary. What's scarier is people having control of that. And people being able to have that ability. Because you can't trust people to make the good judgments. That's what's scary about the story. And that's what I feel like they didn't grasp with the scenes and just making it. They basically focused on what the pet cemetery is. Like what it looks like versus what it is. Kind of like, really kind of like annoyed me a little bit, because they're like, look at this cemetery, it's so creepy. And I'm like capture the character within the surroundings and grasp, the person's feeling, like just the burial and just having the person's face and just capturing the character in the scene versus the scene where the character is. Anyways, I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
See, now that's why I like doing this with you, because you always make me rethink movies. Like you give me, because I'm looking at them through my way of watching movies, and then you always like giving your opinion. It makes me go back and rethink things differently. Mm-hmm. I did like the look of the cemetery, and I like the addition of the mask and the kids marching with the mask on. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yes,
it gave it a good creepy vibe.
Yes.
You giving your opinion, I do understand how they were making it more about the look of the cemetery and not that the actual thing with the movie is the internal struggle that these people are going through, and that's the scary part. Is the human mind is the scary part, and not the actual cemetery itself. To borrow from you, with that being said, there was one visually I thought it looked great. I thought it was a really good looking movie. I thought the cinematography was good. It had a good atmosphere to it. But there was one scene in particular where John Lithgow and the father are at the cemetery, and there is so obviously a green screen behind them that I found it distracting, and there's like lightning going on in the background, and it was just, I found that just completely distracting. I think people are so lazy now when it comes to like green screen and adding stuff up and CGI. Just shoot outside at night somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So that bothered me. That was one part of the movie where I was actually kind of taken out of the movie, and that part I was like, oh, I'm watching a movie. You know what I mean? It took me out because it was so obviously like just them in front of a green screen.
Very like surroundings. And it was like, what's going to happen in this scene? They're in the cemetery. Lightning.
Yeah. But see, I'm thinking, with all these like Avengers movies and things like that, 90% of films are shot in front of a green screen now. So it may not even bother, your average bear watching the movie. But to me, it was distracting because I don't know. I miss old school filmmaking, And especially now that I'm going back and watching a lot of older horror movies from like the 70s and the 80s, you know, before they had that technology, and they just had to make the best out of what they had. And now I feel like, not that this movie relied too much on green screen, but when it did, it took me out of the movie. So my final verdict of the film, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I like it a little less after listening to your opinions, because you gave me a lot to think about. So I probably wouldn't give it.
I'm sorry.
No. You didn't ruin the movie for me, but you've given me. That's what it happens every time I discuss a movie with someone. You give me a lot of things to think about that I personally didn't think about. Now that I've got your opinion to think about, I would probably give it a little less of a score. But overall, I still enjoyed the movie. I'm gonna go crazy here and say something probably unpopular. I think I enjoyed it more than Us. And I would say that so far of 2019, it's my favorite horror film.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I'm going to not say that.
I knew that.
But I will say that there's, like you were saying, discussing films. That's why I have not discussed this film with anybody, and I've not watched any reviews. I don't know what people have been thinking about this film, and I might be like the one person who felt this way. People are probably going to throw tomatoes at me. I don't know. I don't care. I like salad, so it's all good. I was not...
Don't you say it!
Impressed by any means necessary. I was not
impressed by at all. By anything.
No. Given much material. That being said, so much material there. They got a bunch of, stuff to work out on, and then all of a sudden they're just like bam, 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 and this is it. But there were a few things that I was just very, ugh. I felt like it was a very long knock-knock joke. Big like, okay, yeah, you thought that was going to happen, but it didn't, did it? Oh, wait, never mind, here it comes. Like, no, stop. Like, go home, Pet Sematary, you're drunk. Hey, like, stop it. Like, no. And then the end, I'm not going to spoil it, but I don't like the ending.
Well, we'll just have to agree to disagree.
But
I disagree with you.
I didn't like the ending. So I was just going to say that. Anybody who saw it, I was not a fan of the ending. I felt like a lot of stuff was pulled, extremely drug and pulled out. Weren't escalating to a point of a worthy climax. I felt like everything was dragged for time circumstances, and it wasn't... The story didn't feel like it was getting anywhere. It didn't feel like it was moving to a place. I sat there basically like, okay... Like, this is a really big cemetery.
We really disagree on this. Because I was thinking that it was very well paced. Usually when I'm in a movie, even if I like the movie, it's the same thing when I go to concerts. I'm like, okay, I've seen it. Let's wrap it up now so I can go home and go to bed. Like, I felt like it was really well paced, and I didn't feel like it was too long. I felt like they could have drug it out longer, like they do with a lot of movies. But like I said, I usually feel like movies are too long, and I didn't feel that way with this one. I thought it was very well paced and just the right amount of time. We've never disagreed so much.
I know, right?
Let's box after this.
Right? Well, that's my verdict, guys. I was not pleased. I mean, it's not the worst by far, but I either like a film that's really, really bad or really, really good, and this film was eh. There's a few times I don't like this, but that wasn't for things you think. It was just because I'm a pansy, and I have a hard time seeing things happen to certain people. Alright guys, so that concludes our review of Pet Sematary. I am curious what everybody else thought. Now that I've seen it, I'm actually going to dive into a few reviews, I think, myself, and see if I'm the one out.
See which one of us is right.
Yeah, right? See who wants to
There's
sit
no
on.
right or wrong. And if you want to go see... I'm never persuaded by reviews. If I want to go see a movie, I'm going to go see a movie. So
wow, yeah.
If you want to go see Pet Sematary, just go see Pet Sematary. Don't let anybody talk you out of it.
By all means, it's not anything that I'm telling you don't go see. By every means, I believe that everyone should go, have their own view on it. I, on the other hand, just feel like me and Jesse don't agree on the same point, and don't agree on the same point of the film. Anywho, it was just either something, I just couldn't get into and I couldn't grasp. So, if you guys want to see it by all means. There's going to be a worse film, believe me.
Oh, yeah. There'll be a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I respect your opinion.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate your handshake. Thank you so much for watching our review. And you guys stay tuned because we have a few more reviews coming up. Pet Cemetery related. So y'all stay tuned. And remember to like and subscribe. Like this video because I seek approval. And don't forget, comment below. You guys agree? You guys disagree? I don't know. Let us know.
And don't forget, help control the animal population by having your pets spayed and neutered. And don't bury them in the pet cemetery.
Thanks so much for watching. Bye. God damn it.
Just
Hello. Fucking A, stop calling.